All right. Evening, everyone. Welcome back, everyone, to another Peaceful Solution Character Education Teacher Certification class. We will be, please be seated. We will be continuing in the Building Moral Excellence Advanced series here. And we're going to be moving forward, picking up where William left off last class. Kind of wrapped up chapter 3 there with the what I have learned. And of course, he did remind everyone to, of course, go back and do the student post-assessment test. And of course, this is something that the student can use to obviously get a gauge on what they have learned. Like he said, they're always amazed that what they thought they knew at the beginning of the lesson was sometimes a little bit different, in some cases a lot different than what they actually learned after they completed the lesson. So it's important to do those pre-assessment and post-assessment tests there at the beginning of and the end of the lesson. And we're going to be moving on to chapter 4 here. Chapter 4, leadership and your character. And if you look at lesson plan 4, page A. Lesson plan 4, page A is where we're going to be starting this evening. And what that is right there is the note to the teacher. And of course, as you know, that note to the teacher is there to give a little bit of instruction to the teacher as to what they're going to get out of the lesson. Now, of course, they do have the lesson plan, the grade tabs that are given, and that gives you your purpose and objective, and then all your different procedures and so forth. But this kind of gives a little bit of a brief summation to the teachers of what to expect, what they're going to accomplish in presenting this lesson. Because remember, as we're learning here, we're talking about leadership and your character. Oddly enough, the teacher is the leader of the classroom, and we're trying to get the students to understand that they too are leaders and will be leaders throughout many various times of their lives. It might not necessarily be in front of 300 or 400 people, but it could just be a leader and an example to one other person. And they're going to see several different types of leaders as we go through this chapter, both positive and negative, to give them kind of both sides of the coin to understand what a leader is, what a leader is not, what leadership is, and what leadership is not. Because the goal is to build positive character so that we can have positive, effective leaders within our society. There's plenty enough negative leadership, like there is plenty enough negativity in society. And as we learned in the Peaceful Solution, well, our goal is not to accentuate that negativity. Now, we have to be aware of it. They have to be aware of it. They have to know the difference between positive and negative leadership. They have to know, in order to, before we get to this point where we are, as we're going to see when we get into the description here, into the lesson, that everything that was given at the first 3 chapters of this book was laying the foundation for this lesson right here. Because remember, this is the advanced series, right? So from ages 14 to 18 and so forth, and then above. And from a school standpoint, K through 12, this is kind of the last series of books before they transition into adulthood and having to basically go out and make a living on their own, strike out on their own and start to, getting a job and taking care of a house, or eventually probably buying a house, and one day becoming married and so forth, and bringing forth children that hopefully will be a positive contributing members of society. So this is to get them ready for that. Okay, now we did talk a little bit about leadership and so forth in the intermediate series, and that is important because it is getting them ready in every aspect of their lives, because you just never know when you're going to have the opportunity to lead. And so under any circumstance or any time period in the student's life, we want them to be equipped with the knowledge and the skills that will make them the best person that they can be. All right. So if we look over here to lesson plan 4, page A, under notes to the teacher, it says historically, men and women who had the combination of character, personality, and skill to lead others have left indelible marks on the annals of time. And that word indelible simply means not able to be forgotten or not able to be removed. The things that they did, and even in some cases, how they changed the course of mankind or left a mark on history, it's never going to be forgotten, right? It's going to be remembered in the minds of society from now until forever. A noted historian once said, those who can command themselves can command others. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Incorporated has proven that those who can command themselves to build a positive character can encourage and motivate others to do the same. Now, when you look at that there, because it's sometimes people have a word, a problem with that word command, obey my commands, do what I say. But notice what we're talking about here. Those who can command themselves. The first and foremost thing you have to be able to do is to be able to command yourself. That's the most important thing. And command is not a bad word, right? In fact, if you've ever operated a computer or any type of program, those computer programs function off of commands and prompts and so forth, right? And if they didn't have the command, they wouldn't be able to do their job. It's the same thing with us in society, that if we don't have a command or if we don't have a rule to follow or to abide by, then people are left to their own devices. Imagine being in a high school and there are no rules. There's no dress code. There's no proper conduct. There's no way of, in that proper conduct, how to govern yourself between student to student, student to teacher, teacher to student, teacher to teacher, how to treat the school grounds, the property. Man, it will probably look like a war zone there. So, this word command, when you think about it, a simple synonym or part of the definition, but it's also a synonym, oddly enough, for the word command simply is govern. Govern, right? How do you govern? If a person can govern himself, they are able to govern others. And that's essentially what a leader does, right? They govern others in whatever position that they might have. It could be a political position. It could be within a business. It could be within a school or a teaching setting. The definition of the word govern is to control, direct, or strongly influence the actions and conduct of. To control, direct, or strongly influence the actions or conduct of. Now, first and foremost, it's the person, it's themselves, it's ourselves. We have to learn how to direct and control ourselves. And of course, we can sum that up in 2 words as we learned about in self-control. And in regards into directing, when you think about a director, like it's used in a business standpoint, like director of operations or director of finance and things like that. But even a director, like a music director, I think the big ones are called conductors, but sometimes they call them directors. If those guys or persons did not know how to lead the orchestra or the choir, you'd probably have a lot of hurt ears in the audience, right? And so they have to know how to do their job so that they can know how to govern others or to direct others. But strongly influence is another thing, because as a leader, remember what we talked about friends and the people within our environment and how those types of influences, when in regards to our character, they are contributing factors to the formation of our character. So as a leader, that person will take into account that they have or should have a strong influence on those that they lead. Now, Whether that influence is positive or negative is completely up to them. But the goal with the peaceful solution is to help the student to realize what is required for them to be a positive leader. But notice here it says, command themselves to build a positive character and encourage and motivate others to do the same, which, those two words in combination there is a simple definition of a friend, a true friend, because that's what a true friend does. They encourage and they motivate you to build, maintain, and uphold or practice a positive character. Notice at the last part of that paragraph there, last sentence, it says, this is the mark of a true leader. Now, when we analyze the effects of negative leadership on our society, we can clearly see that a moral and ethical character is an essential part of leadership. That, that is very essential, but, sadly, in today's society, you see very little of that. Very little moral and ethical characteristics within people. Not to say there's none. Of course, that would not be fair to say that. There are quite a few people who are moral and ethical in the decisions and in their actions, and those who are in positions of leadership, whether it's political or whatever the case might be. And a lot of people get into careers because they really want to make a difference. They really want to have an impact on society. They want to make a change for the better. They're tired of seeing oppression. They're tired of seeing unfairness. They want to improve the quality of living for others and give people opportunities, help people to have opportunities that they might not otherwise have. So a lot of times people do have great intentions in mind when they get into certain offices or pursue certain careers and so forth. But this is an aspect or an essential part of leadership. Without it, notice here, without moral and ethical character, there is untold corruption, sorrow, violence, and war. And you can even see this in within countries. Haiti is an example right now. I don't even know how long they've been in unrest, since they've kind of had the coup, the military coup, and ousted the leaders and so forth. And it's when you look at these things in the news, you can just see how much character education is needed throughout society, because, a military coup does things to get the current leadership out of office because they don't like the way things are done. But then when you look at the state of that country right now, it is absolute chaos there. Nothing has been improved. People are literally fearing for their lives. People are being kidnapped. They're being held hostage, ransom, and so forth. People are losing their lives or being severely injured. The infrastructure, they're not setting up infrastructures for people, to get water and electricity and, clean up the roads and the trash all over the place. It is an absolute mess there, And the odd thing about it is that, Haiti is in an area where they have a lot of resources that are available on the global market that would actually be of benefit to that country, but it's undeveloped right now, So to get rid of bad leadership, to replace it with even worse leadership, doesn't make any sense. And who's the ones that are suffering the most? The citizens of the country. And you see this in various ways, maybe not necessarily with military coups and things like that, but you have civil wars within countries, because different clans or different factions are fighting and warring against each other, and one wants to be the leader and the other one wants to be the leader, and neither one is going to go down without a fight. Well, where did that start? Right? It started very early in life, because who are the ones that are waging wars but people? And the simple fact that they're waging those wars, be it civil or whatever the case might be, is a failure, right? It's a failure on the part of those who are entrusted with the well-being and safety of their citizens. But why are they failing? Because they don't have the knowledge and the characteristics and the skills to make decisions that would improve the quality of living for all. Now that's not a jab at them as an individual, but it is a fact that they don't have the knowledge. If they knew what was needed to fix the problems, and this is a lot of times why people, they're angry and they're vengeful and they retaliate because they don't know how to fix the problem. It's kind of like a baby when they're an infant and they don't know how to talk. They can't open their mouth and say, "Oh, dearest mommy, I would require like an applesauce treat this morning," well, not that they would have to speak kind of like that, but so what do? They cry. They scream, they cry, they kind of roll around and everything because that's the best way they know how to communicate. Well, you see that in adults too, when they have these conflicts because they don't know how to communicate what they want. And so they act it out through war and through threats and through bullying and things of that nature. And of course, the people in society are seeing these things as well. As the young people grow up, they're seeing the example of those who are in leadership at that time. So they think, well, this is what my parents believe, or this is what, my clan or my family believes. So I have to follow that same thing. And then they grow up and what occurs? The cycle continues. They're training a new generation of soldiers instead of fixing the problem. And people can work together. It's not really that hard to work together and find a solution. But remember what we're going to talk about with leadership, and one of the qualities or characteristics of a positive leader is humility. But people don't have it because they feel in their mind if they give a little bit as kind of like a concession or, a meet me in the middle type way, that they're weak. But they're not thinking about the long game, the big picture, right, down the road. And sometimes you do have to kind of give a little here and there and trying to find a solution. That doesn't mean, give up on your positive character. Don't ever back down on that. But a lot of times when you look at these problems, you can think, that is people who've been going through the peaceful solution, we could solve these problems very easily. But of course, you have to have two people who are willing to listen and to apply a peaceful solution. All right. So, but this is what we're training for, and this is what we're training the our students for, because you never know. As a teacher, you never know if there's going to be that one student in your class that your presentation made that much of an impact in their mind that led them down a path to them becoming a great global leader in some type of area. You just have no idea. So take these things seriously, So we'll see here, without it, there is untold corruption, sorrow, violence, and war. The importance of a positive character is an integral part of leadership as an integral part of leadership becomes very evident during election campaigns. Now, this book was put out in 2003, and I would dare say that every year we get a little bit farther away from what our founding fathers wanted, and now they were not by any means perfect when this country was founded, but they did, I would venture to say that they had a lot more morality in their decision-making process. George Washington, I'm not going to say George Jefferson. It wasn't George Jefferson. It was George Washington. He had some morals. People were trained with those things about honesty and integrity and so forth. And you can go back and you can read about a lot of the choices and decisions, even through, civil wars and things like that people made. And you saw bits and pieces of positive characteristics in these individuals. Well, that was 236 something years ago. I think 1788 was the first election after the Constitution, or I think it was the Constitution somewhere. I'm a little rusty on the history, but 1788, 1789, somewhere around there was the first election. Of course, as you know, George Washington was elected as the first president of the United States, and people looked for those characteristics in people. Honesty, integrity, hardworking, loyal, trustworthy, and things of that nature. Most of the time, what you hear, even with like I think the last election we had with Trump and Biden, not Biden, Harris, people were mostly talking about the popular vote. Oh, this person won the popular vote, or that person won the popular vote, and this and that nature. But, people, their ideologies have kind of shifted. Like when you say what's most important to you in the election of in the selection of a candidate, a presidential candidate. Like now, you hear the economy, right? They're interested in their policies in order to boost our economy. And I know down here in Texas and in this area right now, you see a lot of people during those months leading up to the election who normally spend a lot of money, hold that money back because they want to see who's going to get into the office to determine how they're going to spend their money in the future, right? And then you kind of get a little sigh of relief when you get a businessman in there, because of what, of course, he's already got a little bit of a history, what they can do with the economy. And that's what people's concerns are. But when you think about that job of presidency, right, there are like three main requirements here, at least for the United States of America. One, you have to be at least 35 years old. You have to be a natural born citizen, and you have to have resided in the United States for 14 years. Okay. Doesn't say anything about your character. Doesn't say must be honest and dependable, a trustworthy, hardworking American, or anything like that. Those are the three requirements, and that's all you have to do to put in your bid to, I guess you have to do certain other things to at least get on the ballot, but those are the three requirements at least to qualify to run for the president of the United States. You think with the highest serving job that we have for our country, that they would have a lot more stricter requirements, in order to get that office. But of course, the vote of the people says a lot to some degree. Now, if we see here, on many occasions, the winner is elected not necessarily on his or her accomplishments, but because of character. And like I say, that's a little, far beyond what it was back in the 1700s. But to some degree, that is what people want. They would not knowingly put a person who is outrightly being a criminal and a crook and so forth into office. People don't want those types of things when they're electing a leader. Those with the proverbial skeletons in the closet are soon discovered and displayed in the public eye as too immoral to be trusted to lead. And everybody's got skeletons in their closet. I guarantee you, everybody has done something immoral throughout their life. And leave it to this time period in elections, during the elections, that person who, snatched a lollipop off of somebody's desk and probably forgot about it in third grade, somebody will bring that up during the election. Yeah, well, hopefully you're not going to steal the American people's lollipops, during their presidential debate, and they'll find and dig up all types of dirt and bring it up, because of what they call mudslinging. And that's a real popular thing. In order to win the election, you don't talk about how you can, well, only they do. You don't talk about what you're going to do in that office or capacity as a president. You talk about all the things you're not going to do that your opponent has done, right? All the bad things that your opponent has done. And they do that as a terms to make the other guy look bad, so that they'll look a little bit better. But of course, everybody's got skeletons in the closet. And if you dig deep enough, you'll always find something about the other person. All right. So, they're considered in public eye too immoral to be trusted to lead. Really, now you're looking at, you know, for lack of better words, it's like the better of two evils, so to speak, because you're given only so many options when it comes to, at least here in the United States, voting for a particular person. But everybody has the potential to make a positive change, a positive difference, irregardless of what their background was. They just have to, of course, have the knowledge and then make the decision to do it. Now, the last three lessons, continuing on here on lesson plan 4, page A, have taught your students the concepts of leadership, the ability to control their thoughts, to arrive at positive, appropriate, and moral outcomes are the beginning of learning to lead oneself. They can now learn to lead others. Now, learn to lead others. It didn't say that now that they've gone through that, they're fully qualified to lead others. No, they can go through the next phase of their development or their education, which is learning to lead others. And of course, in the first three lessons, we talked about how character is developed, barriers to developing a positive character, and how to maintain a positive character in chapters 1, 2, and 3 of this unit here. Now, in this lesson, students will compare and contrast, or see the similarities and see the differences, the effects of positive and negative leadership from a historical standpoint. Other concepts that will be covered are how self-leadership enables one to make positive choices, the importance of leadership in everyday interactions, and using leadership to make a difference in the world. So those are three other points that are going to be covered. And then on lesson plan 4, page B, we see one of the most important aspects of leadership that you can instill in the minds of your students is that true leadership is defined by a positive character, humility. Now remember, we talked about that, humility, and service to others. And that's one of the things we're really going to point out in the student's mind, from the standpoint of the peaceful solution. Leadership is not defined as the person who is, standing over everybody, pointing their fingers and pushing their thumb down on them. No, it's humility and service to others. Leaders help people to do better, right? They help them. If you're in a work environment, you guide and instruct them on how to do their jobs. Sometimes leaders will get down there with you and show you how the job is done. If they can. They might not always be able to, but if they can, right? They're not oppressive. They're not tyrannical and so forth. A leader, it's funny because the United States is the one place that it's different. Maybe not the only place, but the one place that is different when you think about it in comparison to other governments, where we have, and some countries have both, but we have the president, who presides over, and then like a lot of the countries you see in the European nations, they have prime ministers, right? Now, prime is like top or chief, and minister simply means servant. So the chief servant, right? Chief servant. They should be the person who is the greatest servant in their country, in that country or kingdom or realm or whatever it is, okay? And that's a part of the characteristic of a leader, to serve others, which we just seen here in this last sentence. It is hoped that with the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, our youth will be trained to become positive leaders today and in the future. And in this way, we can begin the process of improving the world. Now, we're going to move forward here. You see you have some teacher's tips there on page 4, lesson plan 4C here, that shows basically the legend, where you can give assignments for homework, what can be read for homework, activities and scenarios and so forth, which you can go over as a teacher. And then we'll get over here to lesson plan 4, page E, when we get into our lesson plan. Lesson plan, leadership, and your character. Now, the purpose and objective of this lesson in chapter 4 is students will learn that leadership is an integral part of building a positive character. Students will also learn the specific skills to be an effective leader. So they're going to get the knowledge and they're going to get the direction in the skills. Now, the skills are developed through practice, right? You can't just learn through reading skills. You have to put it into practice. And that's the goal, to show them these things. And then now, when you go out, do it. Do this. When you run into this scenario, these are your options. Take this into consideration. How is it going to affect you? You know, what is the outcome? What are you looking to accomplish? Right? So we're giving them the knowledge, and when they put it into effect and they practice these things, and yeah, they're going to stumble, they're going to make they're going to make a mistake, they might even make a bad choice, and they can get up and fix themselves and dust themselves off and come back and regroup and say, this is what I did, okay, how do I fix it? And you guide them and you push them in the right direction. And over a period of time, they're going to develop the skills that will make them an effective leader. But they can't get it unless they actually go out and put it into practice, okay? This word effective means successful in producing a desired result. So whatever type of leader they are, they want to be successful in producing a desired result, whether it's a leader of a country, leader of a city, leader of a family, right? Leader of a group at work and so forth. So you have a student's handbook as the materials, and then we get into the procedure here. It says, note, allow students to complete the Chapter 4 student pre-assessment form found on page 143 prior to beginning this lesson. Now, if you didn't read the lesson plan, you wouldn't know that. Let's go over to 143 real quick. And let's just go over that pre-assessment. Now, again, this is something that, this is for the student. This is not something that, you tell them to raise their hand and call out the answer. This is for them to look and to gauge where they are at the beginning of the lesson. 7 questions here on this one on page 143. And this is the student pre-assessment test. It says, answer the questions below to the best of your ability. Number 1, do you make an effort to be aware of current leaders in your own community and around the world? And of course, these first 2 questions are always, sometimes, and never. Number 2, do you see yourself as a leader? Always, sometimes, and never. Number 3, which of the following characteristics best describes the skills of a leader? And there's 8 points here. Having charisma, being well-liked, communicating effectively, being organized, wearing the latest styles, knowing the right people, taking the initiative, or being courageous. All right. And then number 4, which of the following best describes the character of a positive leader? Attractive, mediator, talkative, decisive, respectful, makes all decisions, humble, or sophisticated. And then number 5 there, do you practice self-leadership in your own life? Always, sometimes, and never are the options there. And number 6, do you make an effort to do something to change issues you are concerned about? Always, sometimes, and never. And then lastly there, as a leader, it is okay to force others to do the right thing. True or false are the options that are given. Now, as a teacher there, you do see the answers to the multiple choice questions. The ones that are not multiple choice, well, only the student can answer those. They're the only ones who know. And then number 3 there, the last 4 at the bottom are the correct answers: communicating effectively, being organized, taking initiative, and being courageous are some of the characteristics that best describes the skills. Now notice there, skills. This is talking about skills of a leader. And then number 4, this here describes the character of a positive leader. So the first one was skills, and this one is the character of a positive leader: mediator, decisive, respectful, and humble. So that's BDENG for the correct answers on that one. And then number 7 was, as a leader, it's okay to force others to do the right thing. And of course, the answer to that is false. You can't force people to do the right thing. You know, you should encourage, you should motivate, you should be a positive influence to them, but they have to make the decision themselves, right? You know, you think about the millions of people that we have incarcerated right now in the prison systems of the United States of America. You know, we incarcerate more people than any country in the world. And those people are in a forced situation. Now, because they're in those forced situations, are they making better choices now? Just because they're incarcerated? No, doesn't work that way. You know? In fact, a lot of people, they get into prisons and jails and they learn how to be more of a criminal. Okay? But this is why education is the key. It's the key to helping people to become better. All right, then we get down here to procedure. Procedure. It says note, that's where we're in procedure. Procedure number 1. Review the previous lesson. Maintain your positive character by asking the following questions. Now, that's maintaining your positive character. That's the lesson that William wrapped up for us last class there, which was chapter 3. By asking the following questions. Number 1 is, what does it mean to maintain your positive character? And then you have there in the parentheses, what are those things called? They're not parentheses. I forgot what those things are called. But anyway, the little moon things. To maintain one's character is to consistently make choices that are moral. All right. And then if you go back to page 96 and 97, because you can kind of refresh your students' mind on this, and you look under there, it says, what does it mean to maintain a positive character? Because that's the question of the day, right? And if you look at the second paragraph on page 96, it says the concept of maintenance also applies to your character, because we just talked about maintaining a car there. Maintaining a positive character means that you must consistently make moral choices or decisions using positive character traits. Now, how can a person consistently make moral decisions using positive character traits if they're not taught positive character traits? We're looking at a mission impossible there, that being the case. Consistency is an important part of character maintenance. It shows that you can be relied on to always, regardless of the situation, whether you are the student or subordinate or whatever the case might be, or whether you are the leader. Maybe a leader who everybody's fighting against for whatever reason. Are you still going to consistently and always, regardless of the situation, make positive moral choices? Well, that's up to the individual. We just got finished reading with number 7. You can't force someone to make a right choice, right? You can tell them, you can show them, you can point out what's wrong if they don't do it, but they have to make that choice. All right, and if you look on page 97 there, and you see some of the steps to maintaining a positive character, that second paragraph, it says, once you become comfortable with using these steps, which we, in the little box there, it's self-control and evaluating your choices to determine your character, discipline yourself to be determined to make right choices, and recognize that there is a purpose for your life, and set positive, achievable goals. So once you're comfortable with using these steps daily to maintain your character, your efforts will be rewarded. The decision to maintain a positive character, like all other positive decisions, has its rewards. Along with the satisfaction of knowing that you have made right choices that will preserve your physical and mental health, you will also be rewarded with a positive reputation. Okay, and that's something that goes before you and precedes you. But of course, you are completely responsible for what your reputation is, because it's based on how others judge you based on your actions and so forth. All right, so that's letter A. And then letter B there says, what are some of the ways that a positive character can be maintained? And then we see there setting your mind in advance to make positive moral choices, self-control and discipline, and having a purpose and realistic goals are all ways in which a positive character can be maintained. And you can find those points on pages 107, 119, 123, and 130, because we talk about the steps to maintaining a positive character, and those start each one of those points. All right. Now, number 2 here, procedure 2, it says, inform students that today's lesson will focus on the importance of leadership as an essential element. That word element there is a component, constituent, or ingredient. An element is a component, constituent, or an ingredient. In other words, it's a necessary part. Okay, it's a necessary part. So leadership is a necessary part or an essential element of a positive character. Ask students what it means to be a leader. And of course, you can take a few answers, get a little input, see what it means for them to, a leader is in their minds. This is also giving you an opportunity to gauge what their understanding of a leader is. Tell students that in many regards, they have been learning self-leadership by conscientiously learning how to develop and maintain a positive character. And that's, going over that point again, learning how to lead themselves, right? As we read at the very beginning here, lesson plan 4, page 8, those who can command themselves can command others. And the first 3 chapters in this unit have prepared the students for what we're covering here this evening. This word conscientiously means wanting to do what is right, especially to do one's work well or their duty well and thoroughly. It also is a feeling a moral responsibility. That's actually in the definition there. Feeling a moral responsibility to do your work carefully and to be fair to others. That's what conscientiously means. And this word conscious means aware of, because it's from that root word there, aware of and responding to one's surroundings. Aware of and responding to one's surroundings. Now, as a leader, you've got different people in your surroundings, which means you have to be aware of not only where they are or who they are, but also what they're capable of. There's a statement or a phrase in learning how to be a public speaker. One of the sayings is to know your audience, right? Know your audience. Know how to read your audience, and you can kind of gauge how you speak, because the purpose of speaking is to impart knowledge somehow, right? You're either trying to give knowledge or to encourage or to motivate or to build up or to correct or bring facts or whatever the case might be, right? But in knowing your audience, you got to know, well, what's their level of understanding on these things? Am I speaking to a group of scholars? Am I speaking to people who have never heard of this before? So this is the first time. So you want to be able to speak or impart knowledge to people in a way that they're going to be able to understand it and grasp it, so that they can start putting it into work in their life. If you're speaking way above here and all these big technical words, how are you benefiting your students? right? And that's why the peaceful solution is so simply broken down. This is why we give a lot of definitions to words, because as teachers, we need to know what we're talking about first and foremost, but we also want to make sure that our students understand what we're talking about. We can't just assume that they automatically know what these words mean. So it's not to belittle or talk down, but it's to break it down into bite-sized pieces to make sure that they're grasping the importance and the main points of the lessons. But learning how to develop and maintain a positive character. Have students turn to pages 145 through 146 in their handbooks and read the sections entitled Introduction and Leaders Are All Around Us. Allow time for students to do accompanying exercises and then discuss their answers as a class. So let's flip on over to page 145 there in your book. And we're going to get started with this introduction here. At the very top of the page there, it says, the best leaders are those with positive character. The peaceful solution. The best leaders are those with positive character. This is chapter 4, leadership and your character. Leadership in society is the element that is responsible for guiding and directing others toward a specific purpose, aim, or goal. A specific purpose, aim, or goal. And William mentioned this in the last class regarding goals. And on page 131, we see there, a goal is an end that you strive to attain, right? That's what a goal is. And you have to be ready to take action, have a plan, have a route. Like if you're going to travel from one place to another, you got to have a route. You got to have a plan. When we used to travel back and forth from Ohio to Texas, well, I guess GPSs were probably out, but we couldn't afford a GPS. We just had a Rand McNally map, and that's what we used to plan our route. And if we come up against construction, well, we had to recalculate it, but we didn't punch it in. We had to whip out the map in whatever state we were in at that time and find a route around the construction or whatever the case might be. And that's very important when having a goal. It's not enough just to have a goal, but what's your plan to accomplish the goal? What's the steps to get there? It's like looking at the Empire State Building and saying, I want to get to the top of the Empire State Building, but the elevators are out. So what are you going to do? You're just going to jump? Huh? You're going to wait till the Empire State Building drops all the way to the ground and you can just walk onto the top because of an earthquake or something? No. You got to have a plan. Well, the elevators aren't working. I'm not a spider or anything, or one of those guys that like to do the what do they call those guys? Those extreme sports guys that climb on the outside of buildings, just for the fun of it or whatever, and then they get arrested when they when they get to the very top. So you got to take the steps, and you got to take them one at a time, right? Now some of these young guys do 2 at a time, maybe 3 at a time. But you do that for about 3 or 4 flights, you're going to be taking them 1 at a time, And eventually you'll get to the top. Well, that's your plan, taking it 1 step at a time. So, and in doing that, in being consistent, you'll eventually reach your goal. Now, for example, in the animal kingdom, the strongest and fittest male usually holds the position of a leader of the pack or herd. Now, sometimes another male might come in and challenge that leader of the pack or the herd. And I say that to say that others might come in and challenge your ability to maintain your positive character. What are you going to do? You're going to back down because this person is, more influential. Maybe they've been there longer. Maybe they're the bully. Maybe I don't want to be embarrassed because I stand up for what I've proven to be morally correct, what I've learned in the peaceful solution. It's going to be many things in your life that'll test your resolve, your students' resolve, yours too, to determine if you're going to maintain your positive character or not. He would be in charge, here in this example, he would be in charge of securing food, setting the migrational course, and protecting the females and young. Leadership within the human species, however, is more complicated, and the responsibilities of a leader are far more varied than in the animal kingdom. You know, one thing animals don't have to worry about is they don't have to pay a mortgage and insurance for their, you know, they don't have to pay tolls when they set their migrational course from one place to another or anything like that. And it is a lot more varied. It is a lot more complicated right now, especially in this day and age. It's a lot to live here, at least in the United States. You know, United States is a great place to live and there's a lot of opportunities, but you know, everything is just getting more and more and more and more. The cost of everything is going up. Utilities and food and transportation and everything is just going up. You know, it's not getting any cheaper. You know, I was looking at some of the advertisements from like 1977, 1978, and they were advertising some new I don't remember, was it Toyota or Suzuki or something like that, but you can get a brand new car with all these special trim packages on it for just $1995, you know, $1,995 out the door, you know. And I was thinking, man, that's like not even a down payment now for a car. Some people are paying this much a month on cars, you know, and you got vehicles that are costing 80 and 90 and $100,000. You know, it's funny because when I was working out in West Texas, there out in Midland, when you know, it's either boom or bust out there. And when I was out there working, it was about one of those boom times. It was funny because you'll see this tiny little house. It's probably less than 1,000 square feet, and there will literally be $500,000 of pickup trucks parked in front of it. You know, and the house can't be any worth more than $35,000, all right? But they've got these pickup trucks, and they got the big wheels on it and these huge exhaust pipes that look like trash cans, you know, just all parked in front of this, you know, worn out grass and everything like that. And it's like, you know, and what are they doing? What are they doing when it's bust? You know, they're getting rid of those things and they're selling them because you can't eat a pickup truck, right? You know, you think you want to put something away for a rainy day, but people are spending it in today's society faster than they bring it in. And that's, you know, that's a part of a lack of education as well. But they'll learn that in leadership and being a positive leader here, because the responsibilities of a leader are far more varied than in the animal kingdom. Many leaders, great leaders, since the dawn of civilization have been responsible for building great cities and inventions which have changed the course of history. Leaders help define ideals that are important to a society and have been responsible for times of both peace and war within their own countries and between nations. Now, we can look across the board, almost any place, any region, any continent, and there's some type of conflict taking place, some type of war or conflict, whether it's within, even in the United States. Now, we might not have bombs dropping, but we have small conflicts, you know, that take place here. Just not that long ago, it was not necessarily a war, but there was something that took place that brought harm to others. Conflicts, wars, they bring harms to others. Not all conflicts do. A conflict is just disagreement between two people, but these things, the activities of others actually bring harm to other. The activities of some bring harm to others. And we just had a man that drove through a crowd of people, you know, I think it was New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or something like that, just a state away in Louisiana, you know. So things are taking place all the time, and that's just one example. That was from one person's perspective. I saw on the news the other day some road rage incident. Wasn't an accident. The guy did it on purpose. It was a fender bender, and it turned into a road rage. And the guy drugged the woman out of the truck, picked her up, and threw her down on the ground on her head. You know, that's a war. That's a conflict. It was just between two people, but it was a conflict, a war nonetheless. This is what occurs in society when people don't know how to first lead themselves in their decisions and the choices they make and their feelings and so forth. I mean, what would make a grown 200-something pound man pick up and throw a woman on the ground? All right. So these are the things that we're dealing with in society. These are the things that also our students are seeing as well. And if there's not something to counteract that behavior, then they might, some, not all, some might be actually disgusted by it, but some might see it as a viable option, which it's not, but you've got to show them why it's not. Okay, that's what our jobs as teachers are. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. In the previous chapters, you learned about the importance of both developing and maintaining a positive character. Did you know that in essence, you have been learning one of the most important aspects of leadership? Maintaining, building and maintaining, developing and maintaining a positive character. By focusing on building a positive character, you have been practicing what is known as self-leadership. And there we visit that again. In this chapter, you will learn how positive character traits are essential to becoming a leader. You will also learn that through positive, effective leadership, now remember what we talked about effective, producing the desired result, successful in producing a desired result. You will learn that through positive, effective leadership that is founded on true moral values, you can secure the present and prepare for the future by making a difference in your life and the lives of others. You can actually secure the present where you are right now, right? Make it safe. Make it a place where people want to be, where you want to be. That's the thing. People have a lot of control over their environment, right? And how they contribute to that environment. Are they contributing to it in a positive way? If there's negativity in the room, or everybody's all kind of grumpy and everything, then you come in and you pick up on that. Now you're going to be grumpy too, right? Because you don't want to be the only ray of sunshine in there. Or are you going to turn the tables around and try to lift everybody up and help them to, be a little bit optimistic and see the bright side, the positive side in something, Now they might not instantly turn right away, but I guarantee you, even if they don't, they're going to appreciate that you cared enough to try to help them out. You saw that they were down, know your audience as a leader, know the environment, know the people you're working with. And you might not necessarily even be a leader of that group. You're just a friend. But that was your opportunity to lead by a positive example. Okay? Remember, leadership is not always you setting in front of a group of people, directing them on what to do, but you can actually direct and influence them on what to do by your words, by your attitude, and by your actions. So that's what we're focusing on here, and that's what we're going to get into as we continue on page 146 in the next class there. We're going to talk about the leaders are all around us, and then be thinking about some leaders in your community, your country, your schools and so forth, and then be thinking about that. I actually went and looked up some of the leaders locally and so forth, just to make sure I was remembering who was in office, and with all the re-elections taking place and so forth. And I just wanted to make sure I was kind of up on things, because it kind of be a little bit embarrassing that somebody say, who's the mayor in your place, and you're like, I don't know. As you don't pay attention, you don't know anything, so we want to encourage our students to be aware of what's in their environment, who's in their environment. What if they had a problem, or they saw a concern in their community that they wanted to address, or wanted to help or contribute to addressing that? Who are they going to write to? Who are they going to direct that information to, that request to? Well, they need to know the leaders in their community so that they can direct it to the right person. All right, so we're going to stop right there on page 145, and we'll pick up next class on page 146. Leaders are all around us. And next class will be this upcoming Sunday, which will be the 12th, January 12th. We'll be coming back again here at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you this next class. Have a great evening, everyone.